Yo, what's going on, my Full Throttle fam? First of all, I want to give some love to all you guys that's been following along with this YZ build, and maybe even some of you from the CR build you can see over there. All the new subscribers and all the new people that are coming to the channel. This is the last video in the build series. We're going to be finishing up the bike completely, taking care of all the last details. I have some parts to be putting on it. We're going to be painting or coating some things. And as you guys saw from the video description and thumbnail, this video is going to be talking about how I wired all the lights up on this bike and how we powered it using the original stator off the motorcycle. So if you guys are just looking for that information, you can go ahead and click to this point in the video. That's where we're going to be talking about the lights and all the electronics. So this bike is going to be ready for the first test ride, and I can't wait to do it. I'm definitely just going to cruise around and make sure everything works, and then we're going to be ready for the reveal video where we're going to be tearing it up. I also can't wait to show you guys how dope these graphics came out. But anyways, it's Friday, and I'm really looking forward to finishing this bike. So let's go ahead and get on with it. What do you guys say? the bike is just about done. All that's left is to just put some graphics on, and I'll be finishing that up on Monday. It's Friday right now, but the bike is 100% ready for the first test ride, so I'm looking forward to doing that. And before I do that, we're going to talk about the lights and how I installed everything and wired it all up on this 450. And there's two main things that I want to point out. One, it's running power off of the stator. The original stator that comes on this bike, it produces 40 watts, which is good enough to work, and I'll explain why. But as of a few months ago, there is still no higher output stators that are available for this 2014 YZ450. So for some of the earlier model YZ450s and the WRs, they make higher output stators, but not for this one. And I called all the companies, Baja Designs, Trail Tech, and I even talked to Ricky Stator to see if they could rewire my stator to get more watts out of it. But basically you just can't on this bike. But they told me that it does make 40 watts of power, and that should be good enough to run what we need. So there is no battery on this bike, and all the power is coming from the original stator, which is inside of here. So we're getting 40 watts from that. And up front, we have this Nightlight LED light bar. This is a 7-inch light bar, and it requires 30 watts. So this light here takes a lot of the power. And this light bar is mounted up with 3 brackets. It's got 2 that come off of the handlebars and bend down, and 1 more bracket that holds it together, holds the light, and the blinkers on each side. Here's a few videos of the brackets before I painted them so you guys can get a better look at what the design is like. It's extremely simple and basic, but it works. So you may or may not be able to reuse your original handlebar mounts. So these are different bolts that we ended up using. This bike also has a key switch ignition, and it's made by Sick Ass Racing. I'm not making that name up, and I love it. But this is one of my favorite features to the bike, and it's an obvious safety measure in terms of theft prevention. Without the key in there, this bike will not start. It's a kickstart only. It does not have the e-start, but you can't start the bike without the key. These turn signals are made by Tusk, and these are just their regular turn signals. I also have Tusk turn signals in the rear, but these are a different style, so they're a much sleeker design. And you could even install them up here on the fender, but it looks really good right here, and it mounts perfectly into the holes that come on this brake light. Which this brake light I just got off of Amazon, and it's the same brake light I had on my CR250. I think this thing costs like $12. It's super cheap and it works. So this tail light has a running light, and it will light up when you press on the brake down here, because there's a pressure switch that we installed. And this switch is also made by Tusk. So whenever you hit the brake pedal, it's going to activate this switch, which is run up along here. And it meets up with the power line that we drilled a small hole for through the fender. And it runs through there, comes out on the backside, and we've just kept it clean and tucked away, and there's some Velcro strips holding it to the fender. And all the wires come together here towards the back of the bike, and they follow the routing of the original wiring harness, which runs up through the frame and actually along the other side here. So it comes up along the left side of the bike and around to the front. Here, this is a flasher relay, so this helps control the blinkers and make sure they blink steadily. Everything is wired up using the Tusk lighting kit. I believe it's the Enduro lighting kit, and that wiring harness costs $30. We also have the Tusk control switches up here, so you can turn the headlight on, off, left, right, turn signals. The horn does not work, but I mean, this bike's loud as frick, so you could just rev it up real quick, which is what I do. We also installed a universal Trail Tech fan kit, and we installed the temperature display on the side of the shroud right here. It's cut into the shroud, and that looks super sick, super clean. But this fan has a little sensor that's up in the fins, and when it gets hot enough, the fan kicks on, And this fan pulls 30 watts of power as well. That's why you can't be running the fan and the light at the same time on this bike. And that's where the extra power would be beneficial. But it's really not an issue because the light is only necessary at night, and the temperatures are going to be much cooler where the fan probably won't even turn on unless you're at a standstill in traffic, and that's just going to be for a second, and your lights might dim down quite a bit. But if you're riding on the highway, this bike's going to be cool and the lights will be working fine. Fan will not be pulling power. So the last thing to talk about is this Trailtech Vapor, and this thing is really cool. It obviously is a speedometer which uses a wheel sensor that I always install by cutting into the fork guard, because you can install it on the caliper mount or the fork leg, but you have to drill into that, and I just prefer to drill it into plastic, and I think it works well and it looks super trick. So this thing is going to give you your speed. It's also an RPM gauge. I believe it wraps up on the spark plug. This thing also tracks the hours of the bike, the total mileage. You can set it for trips. It displays the engine temperature by reading the coolant. It comes with a sensor that you cut into one of the radiator hoses. This is where it gets the engine temperature from. And I have also found that this is a little bit more accurate compared to the temperature sensor that's on the radiator fins. This gets a little bit hotter quicker than the fan can register. And this Vapor comes with a battery that lasts pretty long, I believe up to a year, but we have power running to the lights on this bike anyways. So we powered this up off the stator as well, and it has a constant light whenever you turn the bike on. This thing is well lit at night and it looks awesome. So again, those are the parts that I used. That's how I did it, but I know I didn't explain exactly what wires I cut into and all that, but the truth is I had a shop do it, so I really couldn't tell you. And I just prefer a professional to do the wiring for me because it looks really good. And I know that it's gonna hold up too. But now that we got that done, I'm gonna put this bike back together and I'm gonna take it out for the first ride, make sure everything works before we reveal the bike. If you guys are enjoying this video, make sure to hit that like button. It helps me out a lot. It's all I ask. And consider hitting that subscribe button while you're at it.